Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We got a big one today, boys. As you are probably expecting, unfortunately, content warning this week for racism, discussions of some heavier topics that go along with that. It's still a fun episode, because we go off on a lot of tangents and talk about MASH, but yeah, this episode is, if you've seen it, you know. Therefore, as always, the Monkees, maybe a children's show from the 60s, and the Monkees Pod, is not a children's show from 2026. It is a show about dismantling the structures that hold up discrimination in our society. Enjoy the episode. Hi, and welcome back to the Monkees Pod, a Monkees torture podcast. My name is Sommer.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Molly.
Today we have the infamous official worst episode of the Monkees Chow Mein. Did it live up to the hype?
It did live up to the hype.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah. It's bad. It's real bad and hard to watch. And the reason why is a concept known as sinophobia, I believe. I looked up the pronunciation. I looked up the pronunciation. No, I didn't look up that one. But I looked it up yesterday, and I believe that's correct, which is the specific form of discrimination against people from China, which manifests in some very interesting ways in American society and mid-century society specifically. For example, do you remember when you told me what Chinese fire drill was and I was shocked?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain to the young audience what Chinese
fire drill is?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's called Chinese fire drill.
I do, and I will explain this.
But a Chinese fire drill is you would be riding in a car, two or three cars of people you know, pull up to a light, and everybody would get out of the car and run to a different car and get in the other car.
You explained this to me. I had never heard of it. You explained this to me, and I was like shocked that, first of all, this is a thing that people would do.
Yeah. And
that it was called Chinese fire drill.
I still have no idea why it was called Chinese fire drill.
To my understanding, the reason that like Chinese was used as an adjective to mean weird, confusing, or like the game telephone, like the playground game, the like camp game telephone, is known in Australia as Chinese telephone. And I know this because there was an Australian girl in our class, and we're like, let's play telephone. She's like, oh, you mean Chinese telephone? And we're like, no. Yeah, mid-century Chinese was kind of used to mean like confusing, exotic, nonsensical. Incomprehensible.
That's incomprehensible.
Because their language has a different script and lettering system than ours. At this specific time in history, during the 60s, which is actually very funny as it relates to this episode in particular, because Americans were kind of anti-China at the moment due to the Korean War, you know, like MASH, which I didn't actually know. I didn't know much about the Korean War, and I still don't, other than MASH. But it was largely Chinese forces and American forces fighting inside of Korea. Okay. Like, we're not really like versus Korea. It was like, it was
for Korea.
Yeah, a continuation of the proxy communism versus capitalism war that everything is. Plus, the particular history of how Chinese people and immigrants came to California kind of influences the portrayal that we see here. Right. And that happened during, let me look at my notes. During the creation of the first transcontinental railroad.
I was going to say the Chinese came, large groups of them came here to build the railroad.
Right. But throughout the 1800s, throughout the country, but also very specifically in California, there were all these, like, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the Asian Exclusion Act of 1924. There were laws that were just, like, specifically, you can't immigrate here. The whole concept of this was known as the Yellow Peril, where like Americans feared like Chinese influence. There was a quote that I had that was very interesting to me. Part of the reason that the discrimination manifested very specifically in the way that it did was because Chinese people were seen as unassimilable to American society in a way that like maybe other immigrants from Europe
Right.
where because they're like, oh, their language is completely they don't even they draw little pictures instead of words. They'll never fit in here.
And they also look completely different.
Right.
And their society was very different.
Another interesting thing I found out was the reason that a lot of old-timey Chinese businesses that we think of, such as like laundromats or like restaurants, is because Chinese men were forbidden from like being in like the masculine professions. Like those are only for white men. You can do women's work though.
That's all they were allowed to do.
Yeah. There's like some stereotypes that like emasculate Asian men like that, but then there was also the negative stereotype of the Fu Manchu, which I've only heard as a term for a mustache, but apparently it was a character that a lot of things were based on. As well as Detective Charlie Chan, who was more of the like harmless Asian stereotype. The person being portrayed of the character was not an evil guy, but the concept of the character may have been a little evil.
That was not quite on.
Yeah, because it was a guy in yellowface, right?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's like from like the 40s or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with the name, and
I just find it interesting. Here's a quote of what the 1800s guys that thought that Asian people would do to America: that whites would be replaced by a mass influx of East Asians who would fill the nation with foreign culture and speech incomprehensible to those already there, and steal jobs away from the European inhabitants, and that they would eventually take over and destroy their civilization, ways of life, culture, and values.
Steal job. It's always the same thing.
Exactly.
It's always the same thing. They're going to take your jobs. They're going to take away from you.
And think of the way that now Asian people are seen as like the model minority of America, and how like in some ways obviously still put down they are, but in some ways appreciated they are. And like if you show that to a racist, they're not going to recognize the pattern. They're just going to be like, well, I don't know.
But I think even so, even if like the view of Asian people as a minority in America has changed a little bit, I think like the view of like China being so different and scary hasn't really changed. Like if you think of like people being afraid that like TikTok was owned by China, it's like it's owned by China. They are stealing your information.
Now it's China. Now it's communism.
Well, yeah.
Well, yes.
But also
that's what
people treat China like different than other Asian countries, probably partially because of the communism. But like the way people on the internet are like, oh wow, everything from Japan is so kawaii and whimsy and cute, and then they're like, China is where you get like cheap, dirty stuff and food that makes you sick. Like hello.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's how things evolve,
right? And there's a couple other points.
And, I mean, China's closed off.
Right?
They're we really don't have access, or they don't have access to anything, and we don't really have access to them.
And that kind of mystery creates anger when it should create wonderment and an urge for understanding. We see the end result of all the societal racism in the worst thing I've ever seen, aka season 1, episode 26 of the Monkees Chow Mein. Let's start getting into it.
Okay.
This episode was directed by James Frawley. The writers are Gerald and Dee, Scene of the Crime, and the guest stars today include Mom's favorite. Your favorite. Can you tell us the emotions when you saw the character Agent Modell appear on screen?
I was like, well, actually, when I first saw him appear on screen, it was kind of from the side, and I didn't recognize who he was. He came in the side, and he kidnaps them off the street. And then the next shot is him walking into the room, clear face shot of Mike Farrell. And I immediately
who is BJ from MASH, if you're a MASH casual like me.
Who plays BJ, who goes on to play BJ Honeycutt from MASH. And my first reaction was to text Sommer and go, oh my God, do you know who plays the G-Man in the episode? And she's like, do you mean the guy who's BJ from MASH? And I'm like, yes. And I was in love with him. I had he was my TV crush of all TV crushes.
Amazing.
As much as like you love Mike, I loved Mike Farrell. Right. So
did you find him as attractive as Agent Modell?
Because he's very young.
Yeah, it's like
He's very clean cut. He starts out MASH very clean cut too.
we have this picture here, which I will blow up in editing. That shows. This is not Mom. This is
That's Janine.
Yeah, this is
roommate,
Janine. But you can see the poster in the back here. Mom has drawn a little heart
It was
on
a little heart.
BJ.
It was a little heart sticker. I put a little purple heart sticker on him.
Wow,
on my
so
MASH
cute.
poster. I was in love with BJ. I actually had a T-shirt that made that said "I love Beej."
Yes.
So
I thought Beej was just a thing that like people on the internet called him. Apparently, they say it in the show.
No,
though,
that's
right?
what. Yeah, no, that's what. That's what Alan
Mhm.
Alda. What Hawkeye calls him is Beej. And I could go off onto the whole what does BJ stand for, which they do and end up at doing an episode on.
Okay,
but this is not the MASH podcast, so we're
no.
not gonna do that.
Sometimes it's the MASH podcast, but we'll get into that further throughout the episode,
Yes.
I suppose.
So anyway, yes, he's
He's here. He's here to make it all okay. He's here to make it all okay.
Yeah, he's the least of he's really doesn't do anything to us.
He could have
He's just
been
here.
He could have been a valuable addition to like any other episode of the Monkees because they always do have that like stock law enforcement character.
Yeah. I just call him a G-man. Like he's he's a government guy. So then who are the other? Do you want to talk about the other people who are?
A little bit. We have the return of Captain Crocodile, Joey Foreman, as Dragon Man.
And who plays Toto?
Toto, one of the guys from one of the brothers from the Roma episode.
Okay. I was going to say, again, not Asian.
Yeah, not Dynarski. That sounds Polish.
It sounds, yes, from that region.
But he is also playing, well, we'll get into that. This one was broadcast number 26th on March 13th, 1967, but it was the first to be shot in 1967. It was shot over January 5th to 6th.
Okay.
And the first note I have written for this episode is "kill me." Mm-hmm. And the second note I have written for this episode is "gong."
They get right into it.
It just starts with a gong into the racist Chinese music.
I wrote, how many times are we going to hear a gong?
Many.
The racist Chinese music is over like every second of this episode, and I was looking into this. It's not exactly the quote unquote Oriental riff, which is the that is stereotypically used, which is actually from like a ballet from the 1800s about Aladdin. You know, that's how much relevance any of this has to actual Chinese culture. But it is like similar and related almost to that, you know?
Okay.
And it is all over this episode. So we, by which I mean the Monkees, are in a Chinese restaurant with a bunch of Chinese people that wear sunglasses.
Right.
That's what they do. Because they're commie spies?
Because they're spies.
Okay.
But I said they're the only non-Asian people in the Asian restaurant, which usually means it's good food.
Exactly. They found the secret spot.
Yeah,
but in this case, it just means that it's a front for something. Mm-hmm. And have you ever gone in somewhere and gone, what am I doing? Like, what's going on?
Me and my friends used to go to this Indian restaurant that was all Indian families, and then this like group of like white and East Asian girls would show up and be like, "Hello, we're a family too."
No, I've done that. Yeah. But I've also, I mean, like, have you ever walked in somewhere and it's just a front for something?
This is not a business.
This is not a business.
Oh, like what's his name in Hawaii? The gangster.
Yes, the gangster.
Yeah.
We ate at a restaurant when I was on my honeymoon 30 years ago, and we went to this breakfast restaurant. It was an actual breakfast restaurant, but the waitress had a New York accent, and she heard us talking, or she was asking us, you know, where we're from or whatever. So she brings out Gigi Gambone, or like the chef, the cook.
Oh my God!
And he was the cook, and like his name was on the booster stuff, you know, and we like, they walked away. We looked at each other. We're like witness protection program. Like they brought this guy here
Yeah.
He was definitely a
Ex-mobster.
ex-mobster. But I've also walked into, I was in a bar in Chicago with Ellen and I can't remember the guy's name.
The podcast audience doesn't need to know which of your friends were there as if that means anything.
But it's a good part of the story.
Okay.
But anyway, because it was like 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and we were like, we had gone to a brewery tour, and then we went to this bar, and everybody who walked in the bar would just look at us and then go to the back room. Like they were taking bets in the back.
Uh-huh.
They were doing something back there. So
yeah. That's what this Chinese restaurant is.
yes.
Peter is putting egg rolls loose into his large paper labeled doggy bag.
Yep.
Were doggy bags understood to literally be for a dog?
No. I mean, you always called it a doggy bag. Now we just call it,
to-go container.
But it used to always be called a doggy bag, and no, obviously you weren't bringing it home for the dog usually, but
yeah. But in this case, Peter is. He's bringing it home for the dog that they don't have.
Yes. Well, he does. He's not bringing it home for the dog. He's bringing it home for himself, and that was their joke. That was like, you think people are going to think you're really going to feed this to the dog?
Dogs will eat anything. And a lot I noticed in this scene, it's not only in this episode, but it's in other episodes of the Monkees and in society in general. A lot of like, oh, everyone knows that Chinese food is spooky in this way or something.
Or you're hungry after an hour.
Or, yeah.
Didn't we have this conversation once?
We did, because it came up on the podcast.
Okay.
This is something that I found in my research about it. Food from Chinese restaurants in the United States is often claimed to be unsafe due to contamination of Chinese imported food or the use of MSG, the latter of which putatively causes a condition known as Chinese restaurant syndrome, which is that is like misinformation or something.
Okay.
Like MSG doesn't have the negative health effects that it's reported to.
Reported have, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a seasoning that's used in Chinese food, so it's spooky.
Okay.
And food scares in China often received heightened attention in Western media.
Okay.
Like things that already play into that narrative are going to be more boosted.
Well, there was also always that they use dog and cat.
Right, yeah.
Like they trap animals.
And people are like, COVID started because someone in China ate a bat, like...
Not true.
Right.
None of it true.
Micky says to Peter, we can't take you anywhere, which is so funny to me.
And Peter says, but you took me here. I thought, valid answer.
Yeah, Peter's either stoned as hell or super in character right here because his eyes are super blank. But certainly he is both, for that is his talent. Perhaps. And then we get another gong, and the waiter goes to the back room, which says very private in chop suey font on the door. Chop suey font tangent. This is another thing that's like entirely constructed. There's a lot of things, like in any form of visual media, of media at all, you have like, what's the stereotypical Chinese music? Oh, it's this. What's the stereotypical Chinese writing? Oh, it's this.
Yeah.
So chop suey font is any like English typeface that's meant to resemble Asian brushstrokes, and you'll see them on like takeout containers or like
those Chinese restaurants.
Yeah,
I saw one on the way here.
These fonts are all designed by white people, having nothing to do with actual Asian lettering, but they persist. And in this very private room, Dragon Man is there. Oh boy. So Dragon Man is Captain Crocodile with skin grafts and 2 strands of pubes next to his mouth, wearing clothes from 1703 and 1 long braid coming out of his hat. And he looks straight up uncanny and unsettling and bad.
Yeah. It's
And you have to look at him for like half of this episode.
No, it really hurt to look at.
Yeah, he has like eye prosthetics. It's it's bad.
Right. It's spooky. Joey Foreman also played a Chinese character in The Amazing Harry Who 1966 and Who Done It 1966, Detective Harry Who, an analog of Charlie Chan. Why are we running into multiple actors whose like thing this is?
I don't know.
Anyway, the extras in this episode, like the background guys with no lines, are all actually Asian.
Yeah, but then
Which is
there's
so
But the two
sad.
speaking characters,
like, yeah, his minion. I was calling him his minion.
right?
Clearly, you knew actors that were Asian.
You
so
had
what
the
happened?
ability. Like the casting office.
Let's
had
call
their
Captain
headshots.
Crocodile instead.
Right. Well, the thing is, an Asian person just like saying stuff isn't a joke, but a white person in yellowface saying stuff that isn't
Surely
funny
that's
is a
hilarious.
joke. So, I think half of it is God forbid we pay an Asian person like principal salary, but also no Asian person would agree to do all these jokes that they want to do.
Jokes because they're not funny.
Dragon Man says, "Who would suspect that customers that dine here at China Boy Club are foreign spies who take fortune cookies with secret formula and pass them to Asian masters? Not me, Dragon Man. I would never suspect any part of that."
Part of that whole long exposition sentence.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the minion, though.
His name is Toto.
Toto,
which is why we have our friend Toto.
Toto
here.
is here.
Do they think the name Toto sounds Chinese?
I don't know, because the guy doesn't look Chinese either. All they've done for him is they've drawn his eye. They've drawn his eyebrow.
They
up,
blocked the corner of his brow and drew the rest of it diagonal,
and then he squints.
Yeah.
Does he even have prosthetics?
Really
Oh God.
But he does spend a lot of time squinting.
Yeah.
He squints the entire time. I was like, I cannot believe he's doing this.
Yeah. And his accent is worse than Dragon Man to compensate for the fact that they didn't give him eye prosthetics. Yeah, these characters they give them jokes, but it's physically painful to watch the scenes they're in. So I just kind of skip over any jokes they make and summarize the plot.
They do the jokes with doing the bad
accent, and that's the joke.
Yeah, and that's the joke.
Yeah, it's half of them.
And if you take any of the rest of it away, it's not really a joke.
No. So Peter, in his haste to bring home leftovers, takes one of Toto's secret spy fortune cookies for his doggy bag, and is immediately surrounded by menacing Chinese patrons, including
one.
No, that girl that slayed. The cunty purple dress lady.
Yes.
She had a little Qipao inspired kind of purple 60s swinger dress and tall beautiful beehive hair and her spy sunglasses and she just stood out.
She was
a star.
Look, there's a female spy.
And Peter, intimidated by this, cries out for his mother Mike, who comes to save him. And the monkeys hide behind a newspaper outside the restaurant until the mob looking for them passes.
Okay, I did this whole thing. Mm-hmm. I'm reading it. I'm watching it. And I go, okay, so they took the newspaper away from a chauffeur who was sitting in his car, right? And then I go back because the way the guy was dressed. And then I said, wait a minute. Let me look at that again. Was he a chauffeur? And then I'm like, oh no, he's standing next to the car. And I'm like, is this car ever going to come into play? And then they finally does. They get in the car, they drive away. I'm like, I guess there was a reason I thought he was a chauffeur.
Because the car seemed significant because Mike Farrell was in it. And you didn't know that at the time, but you could sense his presence.
But he had the guy who was sitting there with a cigarette that had burned down to the filter, in his mouth. I'm like, how long did they make this guy stand here holding this newspaper?
100% that was just one of their friends because he had bags.
Yeah, so they hid behind the newspaper and the spies all run past them. Mm-hmm. And then they lower the newspaper and Davy's the last one to be seen because he's so short.
And Mike says, I knew we were light tippers, but this is ridiculous. I hope you tip those. What do you mean light? They're giving them cigarette butts and buttons.
Because they're poor.
Yeah. And then Micky says, boy, those Chinese were sore at us. Those Chinese.
Wait a minute. No. It gets worse. Wait. I want to go back to, because I did watch everything and write down all the bad stuff.
Okay.
So this is what Dragon Man has to say.
Oh.
First, I'm not going to do the accent.
Thank you.
First rule of the spy organization, he who eat cookie screw up formula something terrible.
Yeah. A lot of the jokes are just them saying something that maybe kind of sounds like ancient Chinese proverb.
It sounds like,
because the joke is just that they're doing the accent, so you're just, there's no substance to it. So then Peter says maybe they thought we were Russians. Were the Chinese against the Russians?
I don't.
Aren't they both communists?
Okay, listen.
You don't remember.
I don't. I'm so terrible at history, so I'm not going to try to guess what's
what
going
he meant
on.
by that.
Do you think the children watching understood what he meant
No,
by that?
No.
I can pretty much guarantee that. But
Oh boy.
okay, you want to go? You want to do it?
Yeah. So Davy says, "I wonder what they wanted," and then Mike says, "You can never tell. Orientals are a curious people." Watching this episode is like getting a brick thrown at you every 3 seconds.
Like, Mike, we don't say
Mike,
that.
no!
No. I kind of thought they wouldn't give the monkeys themselves anything racist to do, but
No,
that was really not good.
they do.
They do.
They certainly do.
I said, so yeah, that was so bad. And then I said, 2 white guys with guns kidnap the boys, make them get into the car. That did belong to the chauffeur.
Yeah. You tracked the development of every frame of this car instead of just watching to the end of the scene and figuring out what happened with it.
Yes, that's what happens, because I stopped to write things down, and then I'm like, what's going on?
And after BJ and his friend do this, Mike says Occidentals are curious people. Hey, so at least the joke with a slur in it had a punchline, so it's fine. Here we come. The most painful cold open of my life. That was only the cold open. How long have we been recording for? Like half an hour.
I do have Micky's outfit. He had a brown polka dot shirt with a white collar and cuffs and white brown pinstripe pants, which was very nice.
Yeah. They all have like all the monkeys have a color that is theirs, and I feel, or they have a couple colors that work for them, but I feel that Peter is orange and Mike is green and Davy is either red or blue, probably blue because of his bead necklace, but Micky is like brown and tan, kind of. So they're all kind of in their colors in this episode, and I appreciate that. I have to appreciate something.
Okay, can I just?
Yes, you can go into BJ Honeycutt rant.
This is what I have written down. Intro, and then it just says, "Oh my, OMG, G-Man is a very young Mike Farrell. BJ Honeycutt, who replaced Trapper John in the swamp, he was my TV crush," and that is what I wrote down.
Thank you. My question for you on this is: do you think that this could fit into the canon of MASH? Like, do you think that like after the 3-year-long 70s 50s Korean War, BJ Honeycutt then graduated to the working for the CIS?
The CIS.
Yeah.
No, because he was a doctor.
Oh, he didn't have the skill set.
No, he was going back to Mill Valley.
Oh, okay.
To his wife Peg and his children, Aaron, and his daughter Erin, and
the BJ, the family tree of BJ Honeycutt.
He lived in Mill Valley.
Way too many responsibilities.
He lived in Mill Valley, California.
He was also significantly older by the end of MASH than he is in this episode.
Yeah. Well, he was when he started MASH. They said they said his character was 28 years old.
Right.
But he was.
And Radar's supposed to be like 17 or something.
Yeah. Radar is supposed to be like 18.
Yeah.
When they started, they said he was 28, but he was actually 33. The actor was 33. In this episode, he looked like he was 25 years old. In this.
Yeah.
Like for real.
Well, this was shot in 67.
Okay. And that would be the year I was born.
I know. We went over this in episode 1, but you were actually born when they were on summer break between filming seasons. But yeah.
Okay. So anyway.
Okay. Micky and Davy make distress noises while BJ holds them under the questioning lamp, but Mike DGAF, and Peter's not there. So BJ salutes aggressively, and he says, "This is the Central Intelligence Service. It's the return of the cis men." Thank goodness. Yeah. This is Mike's explanation of why Peter picked up the spy fortune cookie. Peter picks up fortune cookies like that and feeds them to a dog we don't have. And then BJ is like, what? Which is also my reaction. And then another cis man brings Peter in. When Peter is reunited with his polycule, they all jump with glee in the background while the cis men give serious spy exposition in front.
They were jumping up and down.
Yeah. That's what happens if you separate the monkeys and then reunite them. They're so happy. My next note says, I'm watching this on the train right now, and an Asian man sat next to me, and I had to turn it off. Like, that would be targeted harassment. This is the real story of being a podcaster in New York, guys. Okay, the other agent explains to BJ that the cookie contains a quarter of the formula for the doomsday bug, which is presumably some nuclear device, but it is simple enough that the formula can be contained on fortune cookies. China's advances in science are profound. So many of these episodes are like indirectly about nuclear war that I'm like, how did anyone live with the constant presence of that? I guess compartmentalization.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. This is why I'm glad I don't actually live in the 60s, because, like...
Yeah, it was plaguing your children's TV shows.
Right. I just want a racist children's TV show in peace without thinking about, like, the imminent death of our nation. Like, Cis Man 2, I never came up with a name for him, but he says that the monkeys are clean, and then they all go to show BJ how clean they are, and by, like, showing, like, the back of their ears and stuff. People know, nobody talks about cleaning behind your ears anymore.
No, that was a thing.
Yeah. What happened has ear technology advanced?
Do we not get dirt behind our ears? I don't know.
I mean, I've never found any. Have you?
No, can't say I have.
But then they like show like their hair and neck, and Peter like shows his armpit, I think. Thanks, Pete.
Okay. I don't recall any of this. I must have been daydreaming about BJ.
So was I guess, because my next note is, how tall is BJ? Because he appears to have
He's very tall.
He appears to have like 2 to 3 inches on 6'2" Mike with hat.
He's about, I think he's like 6'2" to 6'4". He's like up there.
A large doctor in the field.
Okay. Did Davy ask, what is this doomsday bug?
Yeah. No, but like they're like, yeah, we're the Monkees, you're a teen rock and roll group. And then Davy's like, now what about this doomsday bug? And the sister was like, I'm glad you asked. And he just starts telling them national security information.
I'm glad Davy's concerned.
Yeah.
Davy, what is this doomsday bug? So, of course, this high-ranking government official explains that it's the only the most powerful weapon our chemical warfare branch has ever developed. This is the doomsday bug, and there's a picture of it, and it's a bug.
Yeah, it's like a spider.
Yeah,
they made a spider, which is also a nuclear weapon.
It looks like a real spider, though, not like a robot.
Yeah, it's like hairy. It's like gross.
I kept calling the other guy high-ranking government official.
Okay, his name could be high-ranking government official. And then transitions to Dragon Man's headquarters, where he also has the spider picture. And
he's Dragon Master or Dragon Man?
Dragon Man. He's just a man. He's not a master.
Okay.
He says, we must get the formula for Doomsday Bug. Don't you have it? How did you have a quarter of it to put on a fortune cookie?
And you had they had all of it, and they put it into the fortune cookies.
They only had one copy of it?
And I guess so.
It's not even theirs. It's an American weapon. I don't understand.
I don't understand.
What's the formula for a spider?
I've actually written back to Dragon Master and Toto too.
Yeah, Toto too.
With the same picture. Must get the formula: a vicious germ spell with green spots, hairy legs, and 200 eyes.
That was another joke that I wasn't listening to because
so they were saying it's like a germ cell. So they're saying it's it's not like
it's like a disease, chemical, like a physical warfare or whatever that's called.
Biological
warfare.
But they're saying the chemical.
I mean, no part of this is supposed to like reflect as real espionage.
No, or they mixing up all their bugs. Like they made it look like a bug. They're calling it a germ. It's all sorts of stuff.
Okay, it's all of 1960s spying in one thing. You know what I noticed in this scene? Dragon Man's eyes are blue.
They are blue. They did not fully commit.
No, they didn't give him contacts, and he's also like bugging his eyes out. Like, that's probably because the fucking makeup makes it so he can't see and he's uncomfortable.
Yeah, they had a thing like overhanging his eyes, so he was like bugging his eyes out, which was in stark contrast to the other guy who did nothing but squint.
Yeah, and then at the end of the scene, he hits a gong in Toto's ear, and I realized with horror that this character is Sensei from the hit manga series Wasabi that I wrote when I was like 11 years old.
Oh wow.
I used to go to this comic drawing art class, and I just kept taking the class at like the art center near our town, and every like semester of this class, I would write a new installment of my epic manga series Wasabi, which is all just my OCs, which were just like taken from Harry Potter, and like literally some of the characters were just the cast of the Harry Potter movies. Like Emma Watson was there. like,
Oh, that's great. But it was called Wasabi.
Yeah. Well, Wasabi was like the main character
yeah.
boy, and he was actually named after a restaurant in our town called that because the logo was like a martial artist Asian boy who was like slightly anime. So I was like, that's Wasabi because I was a child and I was stupid. But in the final installment, they the characters all went to the dojo to receive sensei training, and I'm sure
Naturally, yeah.
I'm sure most of this comes from like Club Penguin. But as we were going through this episode, like combing through it, I started to remember a lot of like Asian stereotypes that were like I can only describe as being from the elementary school playground that manifested deep in my brain, and I'm like, I never watched this episode of the Monkees as a child. How are people playing these as games on the play? And we'll get to that as it goes on. But the first thing was that Sensei from Wasabi was an old Chinese or Asian, I guess he might have been Japanese because I was really into anime, but he was an old Asian man with a long braid, and he wore like a rice patty hat, and he was so obsessed with like hitting the gong as a reward for people, which I don't know who that would be a reward for, but that happens in this episode, and I'm like, where did I get that? Where was this? Where did this idea genesis from?
Right.
Like,
I don't know where you
exactly, and I'm like,
it.
the stereotypes are insidious in the way that they permeate the culture.
I feel like there was lots of like random like Chinese martial arts media for children. Two I could think of: Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Two, remember Kicking It on Disney XD?
I never
Why,
watched
this is about like kids in a dojo.
Disney, but yeah, I that sounds familiar. And Club Penguin, like I said.
Club Penguin.
Also, then you remember like Disney movies from the 50s, like the whole like Native Americans in Peter Pan, or like the We Are Siamese or something.
Mm-hmm.
It is really kids media that you show them in the background, and it's impossible to explain to kids like the nuances of like what's kind of insidious but okay to take away like the rest of the movie from it versus like. So, like, things that are explicitly racist, you can say, okay, this is, but if something's just kind of sinister or coded or weird or not handled the best,
right,
that'll get stuck in the back of your brain and come out in weird ways, you know? Which is why it's important that responsible shows like the Monkees have their topics well handled. Big government guy.
high-ranking government
Official tells the Monkey something very confusing, which is he's like, the big man in the Chinese organization is unknown. Dragon Man, he's a weirdo. He's only number 2. They say that? Put a pin in that, everybody.
Yes.
And they're like, why is he a weirdo? And they're like, well, because he has long hair and strange clothes. And then they're like, oh. And I was like, unintentional social commentary on how both hippies and people of color are otherized by the establishment for not fitting into white patriarchal norms. The episode almost said something.
Almost woke for a second.
Yeah.
There. They almost got there.
Yeah. And a big government official, I think they say his name at this point is Inspector Blau.
No, he's just the high rank. Now he's HRGD. I mean HRGO, high ranking government official.
HRGO, yeah.
Warns them Dragon Man may come looking for them because he knows they have the cookie.
Great. And during this conversation, Mike and Micky look at each other and almost kiss again. So that's where my attention was. Also, but also the like, okay, boys, you can leave my law enforcement office, but watch out for the enemies. That plot beat happened last episode. Like,
Yeah.
They're like, that was good. Let's do it again.
Yeah. They're jump scared by BJ as they leave the office, and Mike makes like a like a heart beating motion.
And then they just keep backing into each other and jump scaring.
Yeah, it's now night in the pad, which you can tell because they're wearing their dressing gowns. And Mike and Micky are walking around the pad backwards at night and bump into each other and get scared. What did you think would happen if you were walking around like that? I don't know. Right after Micky scares Mike, he says what sounds like "it's okay, sweetie," but what was in fact "it's okay, it's me," but it sounded like "it's okay, sweetie." They are paranoid that the Chinese are following them. Micky says, "You know that celebrity wax museum we passed on the way home? Was Gary Cooper Chinese?" Girl.
I was like, what? That was bad.
Girl.
So he knows he's being followed because apparently there was a Chinese person at the wax museum.
Yeah. What notes do you have on their sleeping arrangements?
Okay, Mike and Micky are walking into each other, and then Peter and Davy, Peter in his footy pajamas,
which have like a poop flap. I noticed.
Well, that's how those work. Davy convinces that they won't be kidnapped and kill them tonight. So Micky and Mike went to bed upstairs.
Yeah,
they're like, okay, it's okay. We could go to bed. So they leave and they go upstairs.
Yeah.
And you could imagine, okay, maybe there's a hallway and there's bedrooms up there.
Yeah.
Right? And then who are the other two? Peter and Davy are like, okay, let's go to bed. And they go like to a room downstairs.
Yeah.
The two of them together. And I'm like, do they share a bedroom?
Yes.
Do they share?
Yes. Well, okay. So I said many moons ago, I made a mistake on the podcast where I said that in season 1 the monkeys all slept in the same bed, and then in season 2 they gave them separate beds. They did not sleep in the same bed. What they did, in fact, was sleep in the same bed when they were over at that mansion that one night. But in season 2 they all share one bedroom, like a boarding house. In season 1 they are split, Dylan, Smith, and Jork upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
And we do see all of those bedrooms over the course of the show. They all do have 2 beds in them each, but I know that they push them together at night, so that's okay for me.
Well, one of the bedrooms has the beaded curtain.
Yeah, that's the downstairs. That's the Jork bedroom.
Okay. But I was like, what? They're going to bed together, Mom. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it.
Yeah, no, Peter, in this little conversation Peter and Davy have before they go to bed, Peter, he's like, Davy, if I get killed by Chinese, you can have my sport jacket. And then Davy's like, Peter, we won't get killed by Chinese. What color is your sport jacket, though? But this whole time, Peter has his hands on Davy's chest, and then as they walk away, Davy gives Peter a face shove caress before they go to bed
together.
Toto and a real Asian man
named Chang
kidnap the first body they see in the pad, which is clearly Mr. Schneider even from behind. And here's the thing: Mr. Schneider's limbs are default unstuffed. He just has empty jacket limbs. They didn't notice that he didn't have limbs until they took the bag off his head.
How does that look like a person to you?
Yeah, Mr. Schneider less resembles a person and more resembles
a sack of potatoes with a head on it.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot wrong with that. And then Dragon Man is annoyed rather than disturbed by the alive puppet before him.
Oh yeah, they do make it talk.
Yeah, he gives a little pull of the string, and then Mr. Schneider says, "It is better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all."
And then he blinks scarily.
He did blink, yes.
And his mouth moving mechanism is back. His rubbery mouth is back.
So he's given a fortune cookie.
Is that what that was supposed to be?
Probably.
Okay. I don't know why he said that.
I'm thinking that's the deal. He's doing it. They're doing everything is like a fortune. Everything everybody's saying sounds like a fortune.
Okay.
He moves his head first.
Yeah, he's fully animated. It's probably the most animated he's been, and he's not even in the presence of his boys. So very sinister. They never put him back.
Well, they never return him.
There's a beautiful shot right before they kidnap Micky of Micky coming down the stairs, and they clearly wanted to tie it into the previous scene, so they have this voiceover line of Mike, who's clearly not on set that day, from the bedroom going to Micky, "Oh, come on, let's go to bed." It's in the material. I'm not making this up. It's in the material.
Calling down from the bedroom.
The Dolan Smith. You know, he was he was ready. Do you think that the Monkees picked the bedroom pairings themselves at this point in the season? Because they were kind of paired off in those 2 little friend groups by this point,
I think it's possible, or even the writers picked up on it. I also noticed that our dolls are separated by bedroom.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
together.
amazing. Wait, put Mike next to Micky so they can be true love.
Bedroom buddies.
Yay. Stay in your boxes though. Leave room for Jesus. The Chinese assistants bag and bonk Micky and kidnap him. Then they're like, you brought the wrong one again! The implication that Peter still actively has the fortune cookie on his person and kidnapping Peter specifically is the only way that they can get it because he always has it?
Like he hasn't eaten it and thrown it away yet?
Isn't it in the doggy bag anyway?
Well, it's revealed to be in the safe at the CIS headquarters,
Yes.
so they don't have it at all anymore.
Chang has a scary looking knife that he's like got right next to Mickey's head. I like this daggery thing,
Mhm.
and I was like, that's scary.
And Toto says, "Forgive me, master, but all American look alike to me.
All American look alike to me.
All American look alike to me."
Like, I couldn't tell if that was, like, self-aware or if it, like, came right back around to being racist.
I think on some level, like, they have that same joke in Ragtime the Musical,
Yeah.
but it doesn't hit the same when it's being said by a white American in yellow face. It kind of takes the impact out of the sales on that one. It cuts back to, like, the police station. Peter, with well-acted distress, goes, "It's my fault. It's me they're after." And then the big government guy goes, "Ha ha! So now you believe me." What is his problem?
He's not very good at his job. They're also wearing the clothes they had on earlier. So they got out of their pajamas
And then they put the same. Everyone put the same clothes back
Put
on.
exactly the same
kidnapped.
clothes back on.
And then he says, "Secrecy is important. Utter secrecy." And then the
And
monkeys utter secrecy.
They all go secrecy, secrecy, secrecy.
Thanks, guys.
The government official, the big high. I said, this guy has bulging eyes, bordering on thyroid eye disease bulging eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
He does look like Rodney Dangerfield.
Which is like that kind of thing. I said super round to emphasize the difference between the Asians.
Oh no! The whitest eyes on this guy.
This guy got some round eyes.
Oh my god. He gets a phone call from someone, it doesn't matter, it's not important. And at the end of the phone call, they're like, "Who was that?" And he's like, "I don't know!" But he just starts, like, spewing exposition to them anyway. It was genuinely funny.
Actually, I think that was kind of funny.
Yeah. But the exposition he gives, he's like, "They took one of the boys, but they got the wrong one, and the information is in my safe." So Peter doesn't have the information. Why is everyone acting like the kidnapping counts less if it's not Peter? Micky is still in danger. They're like, "Oh, at least they didn't get Peter." Okay! They're all wearing their special colors in this scene. Davy blue, Peter orange, Mike green.
The guy goes, "My dear boy, this is a secret hangout of our enemy. Doesn't have the foggiest idea of our location." I said, "He sounds like Jim Backus doing any one of his many roles. Mr. Magoo, Thurston Howell III, the guy from the plane in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World." It was like he has that "my dear boy" accent.
I only know Mr. Magoo, and I have seen It's a Mad Mad World, obviously.
He's the guy flying who gets drunk and knocks
the drunk guy
in the plane.
But their headquarters is so secure that no people can come in, except for a Chinese child with Chinese music when he comes, so you know that he's Chinese.
Yes.
And it is at this point that I remembered another form of xenophobia that is in our society, which is to kind of refer to anything Asian as Chinese. And we can see this parodied masterfully in the Chinese knees scene from Black Dynamite.
No idea what you're talking about.
Black Dynamite, which is the like blaxploitation parody, has a scene where Black Dynamite has a Nom flashback. And he talks about the little boy he saw in Nom who was speaking to him in Chinese. And he just kept talking to me in his little Chinese voice, and his little Chinese knees were blown clean off.
In Korea?
In Korea, yeah. No, in Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam.
But just because all Asian people
are
Chinese.
Yes.
I was confused by what the point of this little Asian child was. Like, I thought maybe we'll come back around and be like, "Oh, the point was like he was a spy," but
the point was
he was just there.
I think it was, this is a very safe place. No one can get in here, and then this kid walks in.
Right.
Yeah.
I
They
think
just
that
wanted
was,
to use their
I-
stereotypical
You're right.
Chinese
They're
music
like-
soundboard again.
yes,
Yeah.
I think they needed that.
They were like in the extras casting for Captain Crocodile episode. They're like, hey, one of these is Chinese. Can we put it in?
He offers a shoe shine, and then they offers to take a picture.
Was he delivering that picture to the intelligence?
When were they?
community?
When were they going to get the picture?
They just like to pose. They just like to pose.
They all posed.
Big guy, SpongeBob, big guy, pants okay. Big government says, now go home and put your faith in the CIA. Your organization is called the CIS, sir.
Did he say CIA?
I think he did. I went over it a couple of times. It's kind of ambiguous, but
Let's get things straight. You're the cis men.
Yeah, you are the cis men. You do not work for
Don't
the
get
CIA.
twisted.
So Micky is in Dragon Man's lair, and he goes, "Call off your goon, Dragon Man." We were recently speaking of the changing meaning of slang words, and I hate that goon has been ruined.
Goon has been ruined.
Yeah,
Okay.
now
We
we
don't
don't.
even call people goons anymore.
Yeah, now you have to be like henchman. Like that's not. It doesn't have the sauce. And then Micky says directly to Chang, "Chang, don't do that." So here's my theory about
I
Chang.
set up the whole thing just for the "don't do that"
Yeah.
joke.
Here's my theory about Chang. So I feel like this character was probably named like Ding Dong, and the actor had to be like, what about Chang? And also, I'm not wearing the braid because
Also, I'm not doing that.
yeah, because the actor is actually Asian. His name is Kei Shimatsu,
Which sounds
Japanese,
Japanese.
but you know.
This poor guy.
And then we have this like 2-minute long nonsense joke about the monkey and the cookie, and it is physically painful.
It was very painful.
And I have nothing to say about it, and it lasts for a full minute and a half. And the yellow face performance is the entire substance of the joke. And if you're not entertained by that, then it's just.
I don't know. Do I have it? Do I?
It's where they keep being like, you put the monkey in the cookie and the
It's just the monkey and
you
steal
put
the cookie.
It's just nothing. It's just nothing. It's so bad. It's so bad.
well,
it's the
it's
worst
just-
scene in the show. Like,
Well, they do that a lot in a lot of shows where they just keep repeating and messing up whatever they're saying and
Yeah.
confusing the other person.
and then that joke is over.
Thank God.
Cuts to the kitchen of the pad, where Peter has left a giant note taped to the wall that says he's going to the Chinese restaurant to
It's
die.
like one of those big post-its.
Why is it giant? like Davy takes it down and reads it out, so it's not giant to make it easier for children to read on the TV screen. Is it because Peter is a baby who can't write good small? Why does he have giant paper? Why is it giant?
Why is it giant?
Mike is like gripping on Davy's shoulder and like mouthing the words along with him as he reads the note. And then they do this bit where they keep like coming up with like contradictory plans and being like, no, you do this and then you do this and then you do this, and like yelling at each other and then running back and then running, and like it's so fun because you can tell it's just improv and the joke is kind of also nothing, but it has the energy of real friends who are friends in real life doing a bit together. And like Mike keeps stumbling over his words and he calls Davy Micky like 3 times. and then in the last one, Davy just says, I'll get the car, like 3 times. And like the difference between a nothing joke where their performances are good and when they're bad, the contrast is incredible.
Yeah, they just decide to go.
Cuts back to Dragon Man playing Monopoly by himself.
Yep.
Well, Micky is being held at gunpoint by Chang, and he is informed that Peter is here. And then they have he has fallen into my crutches. Like this is the only episode where watching it I have to take breaks. This is a fun story. When they adapted A Christmas Story for Broadway and made the new, it was like 2015 or something.
Yeah, we went to it.
Right. In the Chinese restaurant scene, of course, in the movie, they say fa ra ra ra, and it's very like, oh. So in the musical, the way they adapt that is by having them do like a beautiful, perfect song with perfect pronunciation, and then the dad goes, "Oh, I didn't expect that," and then they go, "What did you expect?" So funny. Peter tries to order Plan A and B at the Chinese restaurant. Now, I'm sure they don't do that anymore, and I'm sure I can figure out exactly how it used to work, but I wonder why they don't really do that anymore.
I don't know. But it used to be one from menu A and one from menu B. It would be like pick one from each.
And they're like, "How do you like Plan C?" And they bonk him with the mallet, and then he goes, "No, I don't think I care for that at all." And then he passes out. And then they roll bound and gagged Peter into Dragon Man's office in a rolly chair, and Mickey says, "Thanks heavens you've come." No comment. And Dragon Man proceeds to threaten them with ant torture.
Yes.
This is another thing that I remember from Playground Games in like 2011. Chinese blank torture. Just, you could say any word in there and they would like. I feel like this is something.
I've heard Chinese water
torture, but like ant torture. No, you could ice torture, the Chinese fire torture, the Chinese blank torture.
Okay. But
where on earth does that idea come from?
Chinese water torture, I think.
I guess, yeah. But the way it evolved and manifested in society was Chinese people have so many cool types of torture. Okay. Mike and Davy show up outside the restaurant in lab coats, and Mike's like, "Okay, guys, let's go." And Davy's like, "What?" And Mike's like, "I mean, Davy."
Because they're all gone. That was funny. Yeah. That actually thought that was a funny joke. The whole thing with the ant torture, and it goes on and on and on. I just wrote in the side, I don't get the point of this scene.
Like, well, it's because Chinese torture.
No, I know, but they're like, okay, I'm going to persuade him, and then I'm not going to use the ants. How many ants do you have? I was like, why are you going on and on about this?
I don't know.
Don't tell him. He's like, I'll explain when. I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, why are you talking still?
Yeah. Davy and Mike come to inspect the restaurant because they're from the Food and Drug Administration.
The pure food. They said pure. Yeah. Pure food and drugs.
Are government agency names copyrighted? Why can't they use the real ones?
Well, because you can't. Yeah. You can't say like you're from the. I don't know why they don't use the real ones.
The CIA is copyrighted. They're like, "Do you serve crabs?" And they're like, "We serve anybody." And then they get thrown out, and Mike is like, "They probably serve bad food and drugs anyway." What you were saying about the stuff going back and forth. Toto yells at the ants to sick Peter and Micky like they're dogs. And Dragon Man's like, "Stop with the ants. Let's do the Chinese ice torture instead."
Okay.
The joke is just how exotic the cruelty of the Chinese is. Okay. But Toto's like, "We can't do it. We're all out of ice." And then it cuts back to them
with ice.
And he's doing it.
They found some ice?
I don't know.
I have Micky gasping in there at one
point. Well, before that, there's another little scene of Davy and Mike trying to break into the restaurant by... They're stoned out of their minds, pretending to be Italian customers at the restaurant.
But like, Mike is not trying.
No, but Mike is not.
Davy's fully into it. Mike doesn't even attempt, and I forgive Davy for the Italian racism because I think it's kind of adorable.
No, they're talking like Mario. Well, Davy is, and. But they both clearly still have their original accents, right. And they're wearing scarves, fedoras, and fake mustaches that are clearly too big for them.
Right, and the glue is just like showing through the mustaches.
And Davy goes like, "I wanna buy a pizza pie," and Mike says, "Prosciutto peppers."
What? Prosciutto Mike peppers does not do an Italian accent. I wrote
prosciutto peppers. And then Mike, describing the pizza that he would like to purchase, he says, "I like it very gooey and messy." What? What are you fucking talking about? And Chang is like, "We don't have pizza.
We don't have pizza here."
And they're like, "Well, we can make it." And they try and get in the kitchen and get thrown out again.
I see that as the female spy was spotted in the background of this scene. She was back.
I'm so sorry you had to witness that, Queen. And it cuts back to Toto doing the Chinese ice torture on Peter and Micky, which we just established that they were out of ice and could not do.
But it's waiting for the ice to melt, and then
and so that a knife gently is lowered harmlessly into your lap and does not stab you at all. Micky suggests to resist torture, they start singing, as it will prove they are innocent musicians. We get Clarksville.
We get Clarksville.
Pitifully Clarksville.
I cannot believe we got Clarksville. We got acapella Clarksville.
Yeah. pitifully. And he's like, "You make money singing like that?" And they're like, "Well, I never said we made money."
No, they don't.
Peter's knife point distress faces in this scene are incredible. Okay, now we come to a better scene. I wrote, "Please save me, Monkee Men," because this is the only time that Mike is in Monkee Man outfit.
Oh, is this the only time Mike is? Okay.
Please save me, Monkee Men. So Davy and Mike decide to become Monkee Men. So they come out of the phone booth, and Velma says he wants to fly to the restaurant. Davy looks identical to Velma.
He really does. Wings. I really love how as Monkee Men, like they have Clark Kent glasses as part of the super.
Yeah, they're like reverse Clark Kenting it. They have like these like spandex suits and like underwear. Mike is so skinny. Mike is so skinny.
So they're in their outfits up and away, and then they decide they should walk because it's like half a block or something.
Could never be me. I would still fly. I'm lazy like that. But
and then I said, there's an old woman on the street, shocked to see them come out, but not sure why she's there. She's just there just to witness them. Why did we need it? Why did we need her to witness it? We saw it.
Well, sometimes you need an old lady. I don't know.
To draw attention to the silliness of the Monkee Men.
Cuts back to the Micky in the lair, and he goes, "Before you kill us, Charlie." Whoa. He like delivered it like a slur. It was like, calm down. And this part was really weird. He goes, "Tell us one thing. Who is Mr. Big?" His name is John James Preston, and he died on a Peloton. But
no, he died in the shower after the Peloton.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. He died
by Peloton.
He died from a Peloton, not on a
Peloton. No, he died in that really nice shower they had.
Yeah, their open concept shower. And Carrie got her Manolo Blahniks wet, and that's how you know. Yes. Anyway, Dragon Man says that Mr. Big and his organization is just him. He's like, "Yeah, it's just me. I'm Mr. Big," and it's never brought up again. Was that like a writing mistake of a dropped thread? Why did they have those two lines about this?
I don't know. Maybe it just showed that the big government official the very important government official did not know who they really were.
But it doesn't matter.
Does it ever matter? No, because now he's going to let them go.
Yeah. If they play his little saw game.
I was like, is this never going to end?
No. It's so tiring.
So they have 4 doors to choose from.
3 lead to certain death and 1 leads to freedom. You have 60 seconds to choose. Flips hourglass and leaves the room. I also remember this as like a thing people would play on the playground.
This is the Lady or the Lion. This is an old fable.
Okay, yeah.
This is like a really old, like a Greek fable, or it's maybe one of Aesop's fables. That's why I'm saying Greek.
Okay.
The Lady or the Lion.
That's right. I don't know how in my mind though.
Behind one door is a lady.
It fits in with the Chinese whatever torture to me. It fits in the same kind of space. Okay. Like I guess in that it's just kind of like culturally held cartoon villain schemery.
Perhaps.
I don't know. And then they proceed to completely destroy the point of this exercise
by looking through all the doors.
Looking and seeing which ones have the dangerous thing, avoiding it anyway. But then the 4th door just has all the bad guys behind it anyway.
Yeah.
So there was no point of that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "But Dragon Man, you said you would give us a way to escape," and he said, "I didn't say it positively." I hate this episode. It isn't funny. Monkee Men break down the door, thank God.
So Mike is having issues with his glasses.
Yeah. And Peter and Micky go like, "We're saved!" I hope we are, please.
Mike mumbles something about psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
Good, because their noodle arms can't do anything to physically fight them. Davy approaches Toto and he goes like, "Oh, karate." Ha, ha. And he's just going like, "Oh, ha, oh, ha."
I said, Davy goes up to Toto doing pretend karate because this hasn't been bad enough.
Yeah. And he's like, "Toto, you're a nail biter. And your mother never loved you." And then Toto's like, "Well, you're too short." And then Davy becomes distressed. He
Toto wins this round of psychological warfare.
Yeah, he couldn't handle that, so he calls for Mother Mike. And Mother
It
Maggie.
says, no, you have no ear for music.
Yeah.
That really hurts Davy.
Oh, okay. So then we have the good 3 seconds of this episode. The good part of this episode. Mike walks up, takes off his glasses, and he goes, "You're ugly. You're an ugly person. Ugly, ugly. Oh, are you ugly? And nobody likes you. Least of all me." like he puts so much sauce on it. Like he really was calling the dude ugly, which is fair because he kind of
He looks bad.
he looks real bad.
Does not look good.
Mike then pretends to have the Doomsday Bug on his person by pinching the air and pretending he's holding it. And this almost fools all the assistants.
I want to know how he was going to have the bug. He had 1/4 of the formula.
Dragon Man is not fooled by this deception.
Okay.
Only the stupid assistants are. But like I know my man Chang would not be fooled by that. No. I know they're doing him a disservice. But then another one of the assistants stops them at the door with a gun, and we get the monkey romp, and of course it's fucking Auntie Griselda.
We got Auntie Griselda once again.
This episode
is going to be the new thing, and I do defend this song, but it's too soon.
I don't defend it. This episode is a flaming pile of shit. They picked the worst song to mock me.
So their romp is running through to Auntie Griselda, but they're running through the 4 doors, very Scooby-esque.
Yeah.
Running in and out of the doors, chasing each other.
Yeah. And you can clearly see that all the doors lead to the same black void because at certain points they'll run through multiple rooms.
Yeah, you see them going past.
I said the gorilla from Cabaret is there.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I said, do all end up in the back room for a minute. Then a gorilla comes out of one of the doors a couple of times. Why? I don't know.
Well, the gorilla was probably on set already from when they filmed the next couple episodes.
Yes.
There's a girl in a really cute outfit and a girl in a really insane hat.
There's a part where the monkeys hide between the doors and cover their eyes like toddlers to hide. And Peter covers Davy's eyes, and then Davy takes his Monkee Man glasses and puts them on over Peter's hand. Mike is playing a Chinese lantern like an accordion.
Yeah, I have exactly those words.
It's what he was doing.
Micky's throwing empty boxes down on everyone.
Yeah.
Peter's jumping up and down.
Yeah. Mike comes out of a door, arm in arm with Chang and Toto. They appear to have made friends somewhere in the void back there because they all hug and shake hands. And then Micky and Peter kindly hand them some live chickens as a present. Yes. And they laugh and pet them.
Live chickens are back.
I'm just reporting the contents of the shots as I see them. I can provide no explanation for any of that.
No.
Davy hides his Velma ass in a lamp. Yeah.
Why are there live chickens on the set to use as props in videos? There's constantly a live chicken.
The studio chickens from the
I'm
commissary.
sure that those were not easy to take care of and handle.
No.
So they're like, let's just throw in the chicken.
They don't treat them like animals. They treat them like props. It's so bad. The girls you were talking about, they come in near the end, and they're all dressed in mostly normal boring clothes except that girl's hat.
It's the tallest, fluffiest hat.
Yeah, it's like a fur bucket hat, but tall. I'm guessing that these were the either production secretaries or loose groupies on set, and they were put some girls in it.
Okay, I just turned my page. Okay. 3 young women, white, only to say they're not part of the spy ring or work at the restaurant, come running out, chased by the boys. At one point, Micky and Mike and Peter, why, carry them through the doors.
They wanted to touch on some girls.
And then I said, why isn't Davy? He's too short. And then the gorilla carries him, I think. I'm like, I guess he was too short to carry a girl.
Yeah. they did. The loose studio girls they picked up for the shoot that day, none of them were Davy size.
So he had to be carried by a gorilla. And I just said, Peter just keeps jumping up and down. He was just jumping.
He's stimming. He loves to jump. And then they defeat the Chinese by hitting the gong, disorienting them.
They put cotton in their ears. And then they just hit the gong repeatedly. Because as we've established over and over and over again, the gong was really loud.
And then BJ coming with guns. BJ's there.
BJ comes back.
BJ's there for 5 seconds. Save us, BJ. And then the monkey sits down to eat Chinese food. Peter opens his fortune cookie to find more spy instructions inside. Micky lifts him by the armpits and his shirt rides up. At least they wrapped it up quickly. I'm done with this.
I said, in conclusion, that did not need to be racist or exist.
No, none of that needed to happen.
Nope.
And I hated every minute of it. But hey, we made it over the hill, and now we get to the good part of the show. Now we get to the lit episodes, and coming up next are kind of low-key the best 2-episode run in this season. So goodbye, Monkees Chow Mein. I'm glad you're dead, and I'm glad you're over, and we don't have to think about you anymore. Monkey out.
Monkey out.
Monkey out.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of the Monkees Pod. You can follow us on Instagram on the website formerly known as Twitter, @MonkeesPod. Today I will sing for you in honor of MASH and how Monkees Chow Mein makes me feel. Suicide is painless. It brings on many changes. And that's gonna be it. That is all the words that I know to that song, because on MASH it's instrumental. That's what I got. Bye.